Blood soaked the palace steps as Zhang Fengxi drove his spear straight through the crown prince's chest. Xie Jianyu didn't scream. He only smiled, blood on his lips, eyes burning. "General," he whispered, fingers tightening around Fengxi's wrist. "When you learn who I really was, you'll wish you died with me." The crown prince fell dead in his arms. And in that moment, Zhang Fengxi realized he had just killed his Omega. The Omega who had already given birth to his son. The Heavenly Empire had always worshipped power, bloodlines, armies, the steel edge of a sword. But tonight, the palace smelled only of smoke and betrayal. Crown Prince Xie Jianyu stood at the gates of Fuxi Palace, his robes torn, white silk stained crimson. Arrows littered the courtyard like fallen leaves, each feathered shaft glinting under the torches. Behind him, his loyal guards lay in broken heaps, their armor shattered. The enemy banners of Longjing Palace and Wuyang Palace fluttered above the palace walls. His uncles had come for his throne. A low rumble split the air, hoofbeats pounding closer, disciplined, merciless. The soldiers parted, and their commander rode in, Supreme General Zhang Fengxi, the Empire's war god. Silver armor caught the torchlight, his spear still dripping with blood. Xie Jianyu's lips curled, bitter. "So even you, General?" His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from fury caged too long. Zhang Fengxi dismounted, boots striking the stone with a heavy echo. His hawk-sharp eyes never wavered, his jaw set like iron. "Your Highness, surrender. I cannot shield you from what comes next." Jianyu laughed, low and broken, like a sword dragged against stone. "Shield me? You've come to put a blade in my chest. Don't waste words on loyalty when you've already chosen your side." For a moment, silence stretched. Two men, once bound by unspoken ties, now staring across a gulf carved by ambition and treachery. The general's gaze flickered, just briefly. He remembered nights on the battlefield, where the prince had ridden into camp in plain armor, speaking like a man, not a sovereign. He remembered wine shared under starlight, Jianyu's scent, sharp cedar smoke, threaded with something sweeter, something that had pulled at him like gravity. But he buried it. Duty was heavier than memory. "Step aside, Zhang Fengxi," Jianyu hissed, lifting the broken blade in his hand. His palm bled down the hilt. "If you want my head, you'll have to earn it." Fengxi's chest tightened. He raised his spear. "Then forgive me." The clash was thunder. Spear met sword, sparks scattering across stone. Jianyu fought with the ferocity of a cornered wolf, every strike fueled by betrayal. His blade carved shallow lines across Fengxi's arm, but he could feel his strength waning, the poison from the arrow lodged in his side spreading like wildfire. Still, his eyes blazed, refusing to fall meekly. "Was it all lies, Fengxi?" Jianyu spat, staggering back but refusing to drop his sword. "That night, when you swore you'd protect me? Was I only a pawn even then?" The general froze for a heartbeat. The memory he had buried clawed its way up, the night of drunken surrender, skin against skin, heat too wild to name. A mistake, he had told himself. A lapse. His words caught in his throat, but he forced them into steel. "I cannot betray the Empire for you." Jianyu's laughter tore at him, raw and sharp. "The Empire? Or your ambition? You'll regret this, Zhang Fengxi. Even if I burn in hell, my shadow will cling to you." The prince lunged, but his strength faltered. Fengxi's spear found his chest, sliding clean through silk and flesh. For a moment, Jianyu's body went rigid in his arms. Blood spilled warm across Fengxi's gauntlet. Jianyu's lips moved, forming words that barely reached the general's ears. "I was never your rival, Fengxi. I was your Omega." The world shattered. Fengxi's breath caught like he had been struck. "Impossible," he whispered, but the truth was undeniable, the scent, the heat, the night they had shared. He had lain with Xie Jianyu, not knowing, not asking, not caring enough to see. And now Jianyu was dying in his arms. The prince's bloodied hand gripped Fengxi's wrist, trembling but defiant. "You'll carry this sin with you," Jianyu rasped, voice fading. "And when you discover what you killed, it will be too late." His body went limp. The fire in his eyes dimmed into nothing. Zhang Fengxi stood frozen, Jianyu's corpse heavy in his embrace. Around him, soldiers cheered. The crown prince was dead, their victory complete. But Fengxi heard none of it. His pulse roared with a single truth, cold and merciless. He hadn't just slain his crown prince. He had slain his Omega. And worse, he had slain the Omega who had borne him a son. The palace burned for 3 days. By dawn of the 4th, Fuxi Palace was reduced to ash and corpses. The cries of servants and soldiers had faded into silence. Zhang Fengxi stood alone in Jianyu's ruined chambers, the prince's blood still caked beneath his fingernails. He should have left Longjing and Wuyang palaces were already carving up what remained of the crown prince's estate, but something anchored him here. A scent. Subtle, clinging to the walls, beneath the stench of smoke. Sweet, aching, unmistakable. Omega. Fengxi's chest clenched. His grip tightened on the scorched window frame until splinters dug into his palm. No! I misjudged everything. The scrape of a hidden panel broke the silence. A servant girl stumbled out, clutching a bundled cloth to her chest. Her eyes went wide when she saw him, the war god, silver armor streaked with blood. She dropped to her knees instantly, shielding the bundle. Please, General, don't hurt him. Fengxi's voice came out hoarse. Him? The girl unwrapped the cloth. Inside, swaddled in faded silk, lay a child barely a year old. Pale skin, soft dark hair, and eyes, those eyes deep as obsidian, so like Jianyu's it cut the breath from Fengxi's lungs. His heart stuttered. His chest burned. No, it cannot be. The girl wept. His Highness begged us to protect the child. He said the boy's father would never forgive him, but her voice broke. But he was yours, General. The crown prince's last wish was for him to live. Fengxi staggered back as though struck. Images slammed through his skull, the night of fevered passion, Jianyu's voice breaking against his skin, the sweetness in his scent that had always unsettled him. He had dismissed it, buried it under duty. Now truth lay before him, breathing softly in a bundle of cloth. His son. The weight of it crushed him. His legs threatened to give. He had killed Jianyu with his own hands, and in doing so orphaned the child they had made together. His name, Fengxi forced out, throw raw. Xie Lian, the servant whispered. The baby stirred, small hands curling in the silk, his scent faint but familiar. The same cedar-sweet fragrance that had haunted Fengxi for years. Something inside him cracked, a wound deeper than any blade. He reached out, trembling, but stopped short, afraid his touch would soil the child. His armor felt heavier than the sky itself. The girl pressed the child closer, eyes sharp with desperate courage. Will you kill him too, General? The question lanced through him. He wanted to say no, but words caught in his throat. He didn't trust himself, didn't know what monster he had become. Before he could answer, voices echoed down the hall. Soldiers. They had come to strip the last of Jianyu's treasures. The girl's eyes widened with terror. She thrust the baby into Fengxi's arms. If you have even one shred of loyalty left, take him. Hide him. The child's warmth seared through the cold steel of his armor. Fengxi looked down at the tiny face, saw Jianyu in every fragile line. Guilt clawed at him until he could hardly breathe. The doors burst open. Soldiers rushed in. General. The crown prince's chambers must be secured. Fengxi's body moved before his mind caught up. He shifted, angling his frame to shield the bundle. His voice cut like thunder. There is nothing here worth your search. Out. The man hesitated under his glare. None dared defy him. They saluted and withdrew, leaving the room to silence once more. When they were gone, Fengxi collapsed to his knees. The baby stirred in his arms, tiny fingers brushing the edge of his gauntlet. That touch shattered him. I killed your mother, he whispered, though his voice trembled on the word mother. Jianyu's face swam before his eyes, his Omega, his prince, his sin. The child whimpered softly. Not knowing. Not condemning. Only existing. Fengxi bowed his head over the tiny body. Heaven curse me for this. If I could go back, if I could undo it, his voice broke. I would give everything. As the words left his lips, a wind rose within the ruined chamber. The air twisted, heavy with power, ancient and merciless. The baby fell silent, staring with wide black eyes as light flared around them. Fengxi barely had time to draw breath before the world ripped away. Pain. That was the first thing Zhang Fengxi felt. Not from wounds, but from the sheer weight of breath filling his lungs. His body convulsed as though he'd surfaced from drowning. He shot upright, armor clanging, spear beside him, and froze. The tent around him was not charred ruins but whole, canvas stretched taut with the scent of oil lamps and parchment. The muffled noise of a military camp filled his ears, marching boots, shouted orders, neighing horses. Not Fuxi Palace. Not the night of betrayal. His hands trembled. The baby, Xie Lian, was gone. Instead, his gauntlets gleamed clean, unstained by blood. General? A voice cut through. His adjutant, young and nervous, ducked inside. You're awake. We thought you collapsed from exhaustion. The Crown Prince is waiting in the command tent. He asked for you personally. The name struck him like a blade. Xie Jianyu. Fengxi surged to his feet, nearly knocking the table aside. His adjutant stumbled back, startled by the wild fire in his eyes. Fengxi forced steadiness into his voice. What day is it? The adjutant blinked. The 12th day of the spring campaign. His Highness rides with us to inspect the front lines. The 12th day. Memory flooded in. This was a year before the Emperor's death, long before the coup, before Jianyu's blood soaked his hands. He had been sent back. The command tent was alive with officers kneeling in deference. At the head of the table, robes of midnight silk flowing like water, sat Crown Prince Xie Jianyu. Fengxi stopped in the doorway, his chest clenching. Jianyu was alive. No blood at his lips. No arrow in his side. No corpse heavy in Fengxi's arms. Alive. The prince lifted his gaze, sharp and cold as drawn steel. General Zhang. You kept me waiting. The words cut, yet Fengxi heard the undertone he had never noticed before, the faint strain beneath the authority, the guarded edge hiding something softer. He bowed low, concealing the storm inside him. Forgive me, Your Highness. His voice rasped, unsteady despite his discipline. Jianyu's eyes narrowed. You seem unsettled. Fengxi forced himself upright. Every instinct screamed to look, to memorize, to never forget again. Jianyu's face was the same, those obsidian eyes, that aloof poise, but now Fengxi saw what he had missed before. The faint flush at the tips of his ears. The subtle flicker of his scent, cedar smoke, threaded with that sweetness he had dismissed. Omega. It had been there all along, and Fengxi, blind with arrogance, had ignored it. Unsettled? Fengxi echoed, struggling for control. Perhaps it is the burden of command. Jianyu leaned back, studying him. You are not a man easily shaken, General. Yet today your eyes follow me as if I were your enemy. Enemy. The word twisted like a knife. Fengxi lowered his gaze. Never. Jianyu's lips curved, though not in warmth. Good. Then prove it on the field. You ride with me today. The march to the front was brutal. Wind whipped the banners, dust choked the air, and soldiers tramped in endless formation. Yet all Fengxi could see was the figure ahead of him on horseback, midnight robes fluttering, posture regal. Jianyu. Alive. Within reach. Fengxi's chest ached. He wanted to ride up, to seize his wrist, to beg forgiveness he did not yet deserve. But what would he say? I killed you. I killed us. And heaven cast me back to fix it. Jianyu would laugh in his face. So he stayed silent. Yet fate had no patience for hesitation. As they approached the ridge, arrows rained from above. Ambush. Soldiers shouted, chaos erupted. Feng Shi's instincts surged, he spurred his horse forward, intercepting the deadly volley. One shaft sliced his arm, but he caught another mid-flight with his spear. Jianyu turned, eyes flashing in shock. "General!" Feng Shi's voice roared across the battlefield, harsher than thunder. "Stay behind me!" He fought like a man possessed, spear spinning, every strike fueled not by glory but desperation. He would not let Jianyu bleed again. Not this time. When the last enemy fell, silence crashed over the field. Soldiers gathered, whispering in awe. Feng Shi turned. Jianyu sat tall in the saddle, blood spattered across his robe but unscathed. His gaze locked on Feng Shi, unreadable. Then, just for a breath, the prince's eyes softened. "General Zhang," he said quietly, only for Feng Shi's ears. "If you guard me so fiercely, you will make me believe you actually care." The words speared him deeper than any wound. Because for once, they were true. The camp celebrated their narrow survival with wine and fire, but Crown Prince Xie Jianyu did not join. Instead, he sat inside his private pavilion, cloak discarded, blood-specked robes neatly folded away. His attendants fussed, but he waved them out. Only silence remained until a flap rustled, and General Zhang Fengshi stepped inside. Jianyu's eyes lifted slowly. The torchlight threw shadows across Fengshi's features, highlighting the gash on his arm where an arrow had grazed him. He had not bandaged it properly, blood still seeped, staining his sleeve. "You fought like a man with no regard for his own life," Jianyu said coolly. "Was that courage or recklessness?" Fengshi bowed low, voice steady. "Neither. It was duty." Jianyu studied him, expression unreadable. Duty rarely drives a man to shield his sovereign with his body. A general's task is to command from the rear, not take arrows meant for another. Feng Shi's chest tightened. "If only you knew, Jianyu. If only you remembered what I do." "I will not let harm touch your highness," he said simply. Jianyu leaned back, lips curling faintly. "Bold words. Yet when you say them, I almost believe you." The flicker of warmth in that remark cut deeper than steel. Jianyu, who wore aloofness like armor, had allowed the mask to slip for a heartbeat. Feng Shi's fists clenched behind his back. This was the moment, the fragile opening he had once ignored. Now he swore he would not. Later, after the pavilion dimmed and attendants retired, Jianyu found himself restless. He replayed the clash on the ridge, the sight of Feng Shi lunging into danger, his spear catching arrows with impossible precision, his voice thundering orders that turned chaos into victory. And that moment when he had turned, expecting death, and instead found Feng Shi's back shielding him. The war god had many faces, ruthless commander, unbending soldier, cold strategist. But tonight, Jianyu had seen something else flicker beneath the steel. Desperation. A fire that had not been meant for the Empire alone. It unsettled him. A soft knock. "Enter," Jianyu called, expecting an attendant. Instead, Zhang Fengshi stepped inside again, a basin and cloth in his hands. His movements were almost awkward, as though unused to such a task. "Your Highness," he said quietly, "you are still bleeding." Jianyu raised a brow. "You came to tend me yourself? That is hardly a general's work." Feng Shi knelt without answering. He dipped the cloth, wrung it, and began wiping the blood from Jianyu's arm. His callous fingers brushed skin, steady, careful, almost reverent. Jianyu's pulse jumped. He masked it with disdain. "You risked your life once today. Now you risk your dignity?" Feng Shi's voice dropped, hoarse. "Dignity means nothing if I cannot protect you." The cloth stilled. Silence pressed close. Jianyu's gaze bore into him, searching. Something in Feng Shi's eyes, an ache, or rawness, unnerved him. "You speak," Jianyu said softly, "as though you owe me a debt." Feng Shi's throat worked. "I owe you more than I can ever repay. I owe you your life, your child, your future." But he could not speak those words yet. Instead, he bowed his head. "If your Highness allows it, let me stand at your side, not behind you." Jianyu inhaled sharply. For a heartbeat, the air thickened, heavy with unspoken tension. The faint scent of cedar smoke and steel filled the space, his own, tangled with the subtle sweetness that clung to Xie Jianyu's chest tightened. His instincts screamed warnings, and Alpha's presence pressed too close, but beneath it lay something he could not deny: safety. He pulled his arm back, voice steadier than he felt. "Very well, General. But do not mistake your station. You are my shield, not my equal." Xie bowed low, hiding the tremor of relief in his chest. "As you command." But Jianyu's eyes lingered as he turned away. The shield, yes. Yet when those arms had encircled him against death, he had felt more. And that frightened him more than any enemy blade. Crown Prince Xie Jianyu was not a man who trusted easily. In the heavenly court, trust was a blade more dangerous than any weapon. Yet since the ambush on the ridge, Zhang Fengxi's figure had stalked his thoughts, towering, implacable, unyielding. A shield. A chain. Jianyu hated the uncertainty of it. So he decided to test it. The morning sun spilled across the training grounds. Soldiers sparred under the general's barked orders, their movements sharp, disciplined. At the edge, Jianyu appeared, robes flowing, attendants trailing behind him. His presence cut the air like a drawn sword, everything stilled. "General Zhang," Jianyu called, voice cool, "I wish to test your skill today. Will you spar with me?" The murmurs rippled instantly. For the crown prince to spar was unthinkable. But Xie only straightened, expression unreadable. "If your highness insists." The attendants sputtered in protest. "Your highness, it's improper." Silence. Jianyu's tone brooked no argument. He stepped into the ring, tossing aside his robe to reveal light armor beneath. His eyes never left Xie's. The general removed his gauntlets, rolling his shoulders. When they faced each other, the crowd fell utterly silent. The clash began with Jianyu lunging first, sword flashing. Xie parried easily, but Jianyu pressed harder, testing, striking with precise fury. He was no pampered prince, his form carried years of secret training. Steel rang against steel. The air sparked with heat. "Why do you fight like a man with nothing to lose?" Jianyu demanded, driving him back a step. Xie's jaw clenched. "Because I already lost what mattered once." Jianyu's eyes flickered, caught off guard by the raw edge in his tone. He slashed again, harder. "You speak in riddles. Am I to believe your loyalty is not to the Empire, but to me alone?" The question tore from him before he could stop it. A trap, perhaps, but one he himself needed answered. Xie's spear whirled, knocking Jianyu's blade aside. He stepped in close, so close Jianyu could feel the heat of his breath. "My loyalty," he said low, "is to you. Whether emperor or exile, I will follow." The world seemed to narrow to that moment, their blades locked, their scents colliding. Jianyu's instincts roared, Omega rising beneath his carefully constructed facade. His pulse thundered, heat curling low in his belly. Dangerous. Intolerable. He shoved Xie back with sudden force, ending the spar. Soldiers murmured in confusion at the abrupt halt, but Jianyu raised a hand. "Enough!" His voice was sharp, cold, though his chest still heaved with uneven breaths. "You pass my test, for now." Later, alone in his chambers, Jianyu stared at his reflection in polished bronze. His mask of indifference had not fooled him. He remembered the way Xie's eyes had burned, not with ambition, not with hunger for power, but with something far more perilous. Devotion. He gritted his teeth. Dangerous. Too dangerous. An Omega with secrets could not afford to be swayed. Yet when he closed his eyes, he felt again the press of Xie's body shielding him on the battlefield, the steadiness of those calloused hands tending his wounds. And against his will, a thought coiled like smoke in his chest. If his words are true, if he really is mine. Jianyu slammed the thought away. No! He could not afford weakness. Not with Longjing Palace plotting, not with Weiyang Palace watching, not with his father's throne trembling. Still, the crack had formed. And cracks spread. In the general's tent, Fengxi bound his arm wound at last, though his mind was elsewhere. Jianyu's face, fierce and unyielding even in sparring, haunted him. His words had slipped, truth spilling before he could choke it back. But he did not regret it. For in Jianyu's eyes, even for a breath, he had seen something shift. Not trust. Not yet. But the first fracture in the wall Jianyu had built around himself. And Fengxi swore to heaven itself, he would widen that crack until Jianyu never doubted him again. The heavenly emperor's health faltered. Courtiers whispered behind silk sleeves, rumors spilling like blood from a wound. Some spoke of abdication, others of succession. For Crown Prince Xie Jianyu, every step through the gilded halls felt like walking into a snare. Tonight was no exception. The banquet in Longjing Palace was perfumed with incense and poisoned smiles. Lantern light gleamed against jade pillars, but Jianyu's attention stayed fixed on the two men flanking him, Prince Rui of Longjing Palace and Prince Wei of Wuyang Palace, his uncles. Their words dripped honey, but their eyes measured him like prey. "My dear nephew," Rui purred, lifting his cup. "The empire will soon require a steady hand. Your father's strength wanes, surely you feel the weight of duty pressing upon you." Wei's smile was sharper. Yet such duty cannot rest on a single pair of shoulders. One misstep, and the heavenly empire could crumble. The implication hung heavy. You cannot rule alone. Jianyu's lips curved in a faint smile, polished and cold. It is fortunate, then, that the heavenly emperor yet breathes. Until he draws his last, I am but a servant to his will. His uncles exchanged glances, amusement flickering in their eyes. Liar, their looks said. Wine burned Jianyu's throat as he swallowed. He knew their game well, subtle barbs, veiled threats. They sought to corner him, weaken him before the inevitable struggle for the throne. What unsettled him was not their venom. It was the absence of the one man who had always seemed to stand behind him like a shadow. Where was Zhang Fengxi? The answer lay outside the banquet hall. Fengxi stood in the courtyard, back straight, spear in hand though no battle raged. He watched the revelry through half-open doors, the laughter and clinking cups carrying on the night air. He remembered this banquet. In his first life, it had been here that Jianyu left unguarded, where his uncles first struck the web that would strangle him. Fengxi had missed the signs then, blind to the vipers circling. Not this time. General. A messenger approached, bowing low. Scouts report unusual troop movements along the eastern garrison. Soldiers loyal to Longjing Palace. Fengxi's jaw tightened. The snakes were moving earlier than he recalled. He dismissed the messenger, then strode into the hall. The musicians faltered at his entrance, but he ignored them, marching straight to Jianyu's side. The uncles bristled. General Zhang, Rui drawled, since when do soldiers intrude upon matters of state? Fengxi's eyes cut to him, sharp as drawn steel. Since matters of state reek of treachery. The tension cracked the hall in two. Whispers surged among the courtiers. Jianyu, mask intact, raised a hand for silence. General Zhang, he said smoothly, though his eyes flickered with warning, you overstep. Fengxi knelt, voice low but carrying. Forgive me, Your Highness. Yet if I do not overstep now, I fear there will be no throne left to guard tomorrow. The room buzzed. Jianyu's uncles smiled thinly, but their eyes gleamed with hostility. Jianyu's gaze lingered on Fengxi. Beneath his rebuke, he saw something else in the general's eyes, a desperation, fierce and unyielding, that unsettled him. Very well, Jianyu said at last, tone clipped. If you insist, General, you will accompany me when I next address the Emperor. Fengxi bowed, but relief flooded him. This time I will not let them isolate you, Jianyu. Later, as the banquet dissolved into drunken laughter, Jianyu caught Fengxi waiting in the shadows of the colonnade. You dared to humiliate me in front of the court, Jianyu said coldly, approaching. Fengxi did not flinch. Better their whispers now than your death later. The words struck like a slap. Jianyu's fists clenched at his sides. You speak as though you know the future. For a moment, Fengxi's mask slipped. His voice dropped, ragged. I know enough. And I will not watch you fall again. Again. The word lodged in Jianyu's mind, sharp and unsettling. He stepped closer, so near he could feel the heat of Fengxi's presence. His Omega instincts quivered, restless under the press of an alpha's unwavering gaze. Then prove it, Jianyu whispered. Stand at my side when the storm comes. Fengxi bowed his head, bow cutting through the night air. Always. The palace corridors were colder than usual, though summer heat still clung outside. Crown Prince Xie Jianyu walked them in silence, attendants trailing a few steps behind. His mind was not on court memorials or his father's health, it was on Zhang Fengxi. The general's words from the banquet gnawed at him. I will not watch you fall again. Again. Spoken like a man who had lived the moment once before. Jianyu clenched his fists inside his sleeves. Fengxi was hiding something dangerous. And yet, the fire in his voice had been genuine, enough to shake even Jianyu's guarded heart. He could not ignore it. Nor could he allow himself to trust it blindly. That night, Jianyu dismissed his attendants early. The air in his chamber was thick, heavy with incense meant to soothe, but instead it sharpened his senses. His skin prickled, his breath came too quick. No! Not now! The signs were unmistakable. His heat was approaching. Too soon. His suppressants had dulled the cycles for months, but stress had a way of breaking barriers. He poured wine with trembling hands. He had always hidden his nature well, maintaining the illusion of an untouchable alpha prince. Exposure would mean ruin. A knock. Your Highness, came Fengxi's low voice. Jianyu froze. His body betrayed him instantly, sent flaring, instincts clawing toward the alpha beyond the door. Panic surged. He forced his tone steady. Enter. Fengxi stepped in, armor stripped to black underrobes, his hair damp from a late drill. He looked less like the Empire's war god, more like a man, and dangerously more like the one who haunted Jianyu's restless nights. Why are you here? Jianyu demanded, sharper than he intended. Fengxi's gaze swept over him, catching the faint flush on his skin, the sheen of sweat at his temples. His nostrils flared almost imperceptibly. Jianyu's heart pounded. He knows. Fengxi bowed. Scouts report movements from Wuyan Palace. I came to warn you. His voice was taut, careful, yet beneath it, Jianyu sensed strain. The room thickened with silence, scented intense. Jianyu forced a laugh, brittle. So diligent, General. You watch even the shadows for me. Fengxi's jaw tightened. Always. Their eyes locked. The unspoken stretched between them, the truth Jianyu denied, the truth Fengxi already knew. Leave, Jianyu said suddenly, voice cold. Your presence is unnecessary tonight. Fengxi hesitated, then knelt, head bowed. If I may, forgive my boldness, but your scent betrays you. Jianyu's blood ran cold. Fengxi's voice dropped lower, hoarse. I will guard this secret as I guard your life. None will know from me. Jianyu's breath stuttered. Rage and fear warred in his chest, but so did something else, something dangerous, drawn by the steadiness in Fengxi's eyes. Why? Jianyu whispered. Why bind yourself to me so tightly? Fengxi's hands curled into fists against his knees. Because I failed you once. Because I killed you with these hands and lost the child we made. The truth burned his tongue, but he swallowed it. Because, he said instead, voice rough with restraint, there is no one else I could follow. The words struck Jianyu like thunder. His instincts surged, his body betraying him further. He stepped back, hand trembling as it clutched the wine cup. You're a fool, he hissed. Tying yourself to me will destroy you. Fengxi rose slowly, eyes locked on his, unshaken. Then let me be destroyed. The air cracked with tension. Jianyu's pulse raced, his control fraying. He turned sharply, back to Fengxi. Do! Now! A long silence. Then, softly, as you command. When Fengxi's footsteps faded, Jianyu collapsed against the table, breath ragged. His chest ached with something he refused to name. But one truth coiled deep inside him, inescapable. Zhang Fengxi was more dangerous than any viper in court. Not because he might betray him, but because he might never. The storm broke not with thunder, but with silence. A eunuch's hurried footsteps echoed through the corridors of Fuxi Palace, his face pale as he collapsed to his knees before Crown Prince Xie Jianyu. Your Highness! Longjing Palace has moved. Armed men are gathering near the eastern gates, Weiyang banners among them. The hall rippled with alarm. Courtiers gasped, servants scattered. Jianyu rose from his seat, his robes whispering against the polished floor. His face was calm, but his blood ran hot. So they strike at last. Before he could issue orders, a deeper voice cut through the chaos. Form a shield around His Highness. Zhang Fengxi strode in, already armored, spear slung across his back. His soldiers poured behind him, disciplined, their presence a wall against the spreading panic. Jianyu's gaze locked with his for the briefest of moments. Relief, sharp and unbidden, lanced through him. The clash came swiftly. By nightfall, Fuxi Palace was under siege. Treachery had opened the gates, soldiers wearing Longjing colors swarmed the courtyards, blades flashing under lantern light. The air reeked of iron and smoke. Jianyu fought with a sword in hand, every strike precise, princely even in war. But it was Fengxi who drew all eyes, cutting through enemy ranks like a storm-given flesh. His spear sang, his alpha presence flooding the field, commanding loyalty by sheer force of will. Yet the battle was no simple skirmish. It was assassination. Jianyu knew at the moment he caught sight of Wei and Rui's cloaked assassins pushing through the chaos, their blades aimed only at him. A trap to erase the crown prince. Stay close to me. Fengxi barked, seizing Jianyu's wrist and yanking him behind his guard. The heat of that grip burned far more than the enemy's blades. Jianyu yanked free, his pride a sharp edge. I am no child to be hidden behind you, General. Then don't die in front of me either. Fengxi snarled back, spear whirling to deflect a dagger aimed at Jianyu's throat. The words seared Jianyu more than the danger. He pushed forward, forcing himself into the heart of the melee. I will not let them say I cowered while others bled for me. But even as he fought, he felt it, his body betraying him again. The stress, the blood in the air, the press of Fengxi's scent burning alongside his own. His heat clawed closer, threatening to break his mask at the worst possible time. They made it to the inner courtyard, but the assassins pressed harder. Steel clashed, arrows whistled past. Then betrayal cut deeper than any blade. From the shadows of the Lotus Pavilion emerged someone Jianyu trusted, Commander Hua, captain of the palace guard. He knelt, not to Jianyu, but to Prince Rui. My loyalty lies with Longjing Palace. The words shattered the last illusion of safety. Jianyu's hand trembled on his sword hilt. He had dined with this man, entrusted him with watch over his chambers. And now! Fengxi's spear punched through his chest before Jianyu could move. The commander crumpled, eyes wide with disbelief. Fengxi's voice was cold steel. I told you once, betrayal has only one end. Blood stained the stones, hot and reeking. Jianyu's heart pounded, not just from the betrayal, not just from the battle, but from the way Fengxi stood before him, a shield, unyielding, willing to damn himself in front of all. The last of the assassins broke and fled, dragging their wounded with them. The courtyard fell silent, broken only by the crackle of fire and the ragged breaths of the living. When it was over, Jianyu stood among the corpses, sword dripping, chest heaving. The weight of it all pressed down, his uncle's treachery, his father's silence, the cracks in his own disguise. And Fengxi's hand on his shoulder, steady, grounding. You must leave the palace tonight, Fengxi said, voice low, urgent. They will strike again before dawn. I can't protect you here. Jianyu turned, his pride warring with exhaustion. And where would you have me run? Am I crown prince or fugitive? Fengxi's eyes burned. Both. Until I've torn their schemes apart with my own hands. For the first time, Jianyu faltered. The man before him was no longer just a general bound by duty. He was something more dangerous, more consuming an alpha whose vow could crush or save him. And in the shadows of the ruined courtyard, Jianyu realized the truth he dreaded. The knives at his back were less terrifying than the pull of Zhang Fengxi at his side. The night was moonless when Crown Prince Xie Jianyu left Fuxi Palace under Zhang Fengxi's escort. The city below slept uneasily, whispers of battle carried by the wind. Fengxi led him through hidden corridors, his soldiers scattering false trails to confuse spies. Yet Jianyu knew the truth, he was fleeing like a criminal, not leaving as a prince. His pride twisted with every step. By the time they reached the secluded manor beyond the palace walls, his body betrayed him again. Heat burned beneath his skin, his breath shallow, his sense spiraling out no matter how tightly he clenched his will. Suppressants, he had none left. He shut himself inside the chamber, slamming the door between them. "Do not enter," he ordered, voice breaking. On the other side, Fengxi's shadow lingered. "You're trembling. Leave." Jianyu's nails dug into the wood. "If you value your oath, you will stay away." A pause. Then Fengxi's voice, low, hoarse, "And leave you defenseless when every assassin in the city knows you're cornered? I'd sooner cut out my own heart." The door slid open. Jianyu staggered back, fury sparking even as his body cried out for the scent flooding the room. "You dare!" Fengxi shut the door behind him, locking it. His eyes burned in the dim lamplight, every line of his body taut with restraint. "I dare," he said, stepping closer, "because I won't let you suffer alone." The words struck harder than any blade. Jianyu's heat surged, instincts clawing free. His body ached for the alpha before him, hated itself for the weakness. "You don't understand," he hissed, retreating until the bed frame caught him. "If you touch me now, you'll never let go." Fengxi stopped just short of him, chest rising and falling like a man at war with himself. "Do you think I haven't already held you?" His voice cracked, heavy with a memory Jianyu could not place. "Do you think I haven't lost you once?" The words twisted into Jianyu's heart, both incomprehensible and unbearably raw. "Why do you speak as if you've lived this before?" Jianyu whispered. Fengxi's jaw clenched. For a moment, the truth trembled at his lips. Then he shook his head, eyes fierce. "Because once was enough to know I cannot bear it again." Silence thickened, heavy as desire, heavy as fear. Jianyu's breath hitched, his instincts breaking through the fragile wall of pride. The Omega in him keen for the Alpha standing firm, refusing to abandon him. His body leaned forward before his mind could stop it, forehead pressing against Fengxi's chest. The steady heartbeat there thundered against his skin. Fengxi's arms closed around him, slow, deliberate, as if binding an oath into flesh. "Then swear it," Jianyu murmured against him, voice raw. "Swear you won't betray me like the rest." Fengxi lowered his head, lips brushing the crown of Jianyu's hair. His voice was a vow carved in steel, "I swear. Even if the world calls me traitor, I will never betray you." Heat surged like wildfire. Jianyu clung tighter, torn between shame and surrender, between the mask of a prince and the instincts of an Omega. For the first time, he let the mask crack. Just a little. Outside, the city trembled under the weight of schemes and betrayal. Inside that chamber, another battle raged, quieter, fiercer, no less consuming. The knives at Jianyu's back still gleamed, but in that moment he feared something else more, the tether tightening between him and Zhang Fengxi, burning hotter than any assassin's blade. Dawn split the horizon with blood-red light. The heavenly palace loomed, silent as a tomb, its banners unmoving in the wind. Crown Prince Xie Jianyu stood at its gates, Zhang Fengxi beside him, and the weight of destiny pressing heavier than any armor. The night had been fire and fever, but now the world returned with knives drawn. Jianyu's uncles had gathered the court in the great hall, proclaiming concern for the empire, whispering poison about the crown prince's unfitness to rule. If Jianyu did not confront them now, his throne would be lost before it was his. "Are you ready?" Fengxi asked quietly. His hand rested on the hilt of his spear, but his eyes never left Jianyu. "No," Jianyu admitted, adjusting the jade coronet in his hair. "But I will walk forward anyway." The great hall thundered with voices when they entered. Courtiers turned like reeds in a storm, some bowing, some sneering. On the dais sat the emperor, pale and weak, flanked by Prince Rui and Prince Wei, who looked down with false grief and hungry smiles. "Your Majesty," Rui said smoothly, "our nephew has endangered the empire. He hides secrets from us, and already the capital runs red with blood. Can such a man inherit your throne?" Jianyu's steps rang against the marble floor as he advanced. "And yet," he said coldly, "the blood spilled last night bore your banners. Assassins in the crown prince's own halls, is this the loyalty you preach, uncle?" Murmurs rippled. Rui's smile froze. Wei's eyes narrowed. The emperor stirred, his voice faint. "Enough quarrels." Jianyu fell to his knees before the throne, but his voice cut through the chamber. "Father, if you cannot speak, then I will. The rot in this court wears our family's name. If I am unworthy to be crown prince, let them show proof beyond lies." Wei stepped forward, sneer curling. "Proof? Very well. Shall we speak of your scent?" The hall stilled. The word hung, sharp as a blade. Jianyu's pulse slammed. For years, he had hidden his nature, the omega that would mark him vulnerable. If they exposed him now... Fengxi's spear struck the floor, the sound like thunder. His alpha presence rolled over the court, suffocating. Silence. Every head turned. Fengxi's eyes blazed, voice ringing with command. "What you call weakness, I call the bloodline's hidden strength. If you would brand the crown prince unworthy for his nature, then strike me first, for I swear upon my life that no one who calls him Omega will leave this hall alive." Gasps spread. Rui's face paled, Wei's mouth opened in fury. But Fengxi did not waver, his vow shaking the chamber like an oath sworn before heaven itself. Jianyu's breath caught. Pride and terror twisted in his chest. He should have silenced Fengxi, distanced himself from this reckless declaration. But instead, warmth seared through him. The emperor coughed, frail, but his eyes burned sharp for the first time in months. "Enough! His hand lifted, trembling but resolute. "Jianyu is my heir. His strength lies not in what he hides, but in what he endures. Those who plot against him are traitors." Chaos erupted. Courtiers scrambled to kneel, Rui and Wei shouting protests. Guards surged forward, but Fengxi's soldiers were already there, steel flashing as the brothers were dragged down, their schemes crumbling in an instant. For the first time, the Vipers were the ones with knives at their throats. When the hall emptied, Jianyu stood alone before the throne, heart still pounding. His father's eyes closed, weary, but a faint smile curved his lips. "Rule well, my son." The emperor's hand fell limp. Silence swallowed the hall. Jianyu bowed his head, grief sharp as glass. Then he felt a steady hand at his back, Fengxi, silent, unyielding, anchoring him. The court would see an emperor rise that day. The world would see a dynasty shift. But in Jianyu's chest, amid grief and fire, another truth burned brighter. He had been betrayed by blood, but not by the man who once killed him. When Jianyu finally looked at Fengxi, his voice was soft, dangerous with promise. "You swore you would never betray me. Now keep that vow, General, no matter what comes." Fengxi dropped to one knee, spear laid across his palms. His eyes met Jianyu's with the intensity of a man who had lived and died for this moment. "Until my last breath." And in the ashes of the old emperor's reign, a bond sharper than any blade was sealed.